Good morning, my good friend Dewey. It is Saturday morning. It's towards the end of the summer. I'm Mark Sylvester. We're the Elder Council. Uh, we were just talking
Good
before
morning,
we
sir.
got on the show about in my case, the luck of not being born beautiful.
Well, you are beautiful.
It's an inside thing. You got to know me to love me. There you go.
There you go. I don't know that if I'd agree with that, but I'll let you say it.
I've been thinking. I've been thinking a lot about money. And I thought that this week we could talk about money. It would probably take us 5 weeks to go into all of it.
All the
Um,
stuff with money, yeah, for sure.
but when I say money, what was the first thing came into your head?
Um, what does it mean to you?
Okay.
What's money mean? What's the meaning of money to you, to everybody that we're talking with? What's it mean? Does it mean power? Does it mean food? What's it mean?
I will answer that question. The first word that came to mind was freedom for me.
Ah, that's pretty interesting. So
It
freedom in what way?
uh, my first my first memory of money was when I was 12. It's the one I still remember now at 68 is wanting money for something, have no idea what it was. And I asked my mom for money and she just said, get it. I was 12, get a job. Oh, yeah, get a job. And we were, middle class, right? We're not poor, not rich. It wasn't one of those rich. I guess she was trying to teach me a lesson, but it was get a job, and that's when I learned
Mm-hmm.
how resourceful I am,
Mm-hmm.
and figured out how to make money. But it was um, ever since then it equates itself to freedom. I can make decisions. I'm not forced into decisions because I don't have money. I'm forced to do things. I'm forced to take a job I don't want because I have to work because I need the money. So I've been
Right.
able to be resourceful enough to always have enough money. Never had too much money, can't complain of that, but enough so that I had the freedom to make choices.
Right. So this is a dive here. One of the When I think of freedom, I also begin thinking of what's going on in our country and all of the issues around race and racism, around sexism, around all of the isms, and how our country and various members and parties in our country use money to take away freedom,
Fair enough.
or lack of money to take away freedom
Yeah.
and create oppression. Um, which for me, I've been thinking about that a lot. What's going on? Um, and it certainly wasn't a thing that, in coming into this show this morning, that wasn't like, oh well, part of what I want to do is talk about that. But I don't know that we can talk about money without talking about that.
It in that particular case, my first thought and is, I can't control any of that, or I can't control much of that, and that's probably somebody screaming at the video right now saying you sure can, and I probably could. I'm not an activist, never have been an activist,
Mm-hmm.
so I I it just I'm not that guy. I grew up as a hippie. I grew up, in the '60s and all of that stuff. It just never occurred to me that I needed to go do that. But when I look at money as power, it's interesting that I just feel like, you know what? We just had a major shift in the government, and Nothing really changed here. Now, again, I live in a dang bubble. Man, I live in Santa Barbara. You know, many people would say it's privileged, not living high on the hog for sure. But my freedoms are not impinged. But I take your point. As soon as I go, okay, Sylvester, come out of the cave and look around a little bit. You're 10,000% correct. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to go, what can Mark do about that? And I guess I have a voice and I could get up and say stuff about it and comment about it. But honestly, unless even if I were to say, okay, well, I'll go into politics and I'll rage against the machine and I will, I will do. I just look at all the people who've ever tried to do that on either side of the aisle, and man, just the whole thing kind of beats you down. So I figure, guess what? I can make my own path regardless of what they do. My failure or success is not dependent on that external force. And again, very personal to me. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to say I can't do that thing I want to do because of some external force that's saying I can't do it. But again, my lived life is so different than every single one of those. The isms, I'm not living in a world where the isms are crushing me. So actually, this might be what we should be talking about, my friend.
Well, maybe. And I mean, this really does come back to what does money mean? And to each person and even to each group. My childhood was different than yours. There were times where we didn't have enough food. And it was never a time where we went weeks without eating or anything like that. But it was like there was a certain amount of food and that was spread among 6 people, my parents and 4 children. And it was pretty minimal. It was like we would have one hot dog and some green beans and applesauce. That would be the dinner. Now, if I wanted to have 2 hot dogs, which I don't eat hot dogs, but if I wanted 2 hot dogs, I could have 2 hot dogs.
Sure.
And that freedom piece. So I think what was interesting to me is one of the things early on in my life, I made a decision that I would not ever have to scrounge for food, nor would I ever have to scrounge for a place to live.
Yeah.
And I don't live in a mansion. In fact, I live in a 1-room cabin. So there is a level of freedom and a level of power that comes with that. And actually what I wonder about is, for our audience, how many people in our audience are really looking at money as power, freedom, or possibly nurturance?
Let's explain the last one.
Well, relationship-wise, I love to have money to say to Kimberly, my partner, for those who don't know who she is, that, yeah, let's eat at a nicer place, or no, you don't have to cook tonight. We have enough money to go get whatever we can go out. Or, oh, your truck needs new tires. Sure, that's no big deal. That kind of thing. It's like, how do I walk in with a certain level of resources to be able to nurture our home, each other, our horses, and take care of me, her, and it's the same thing. It's like, okay, my horse this last spring was ended up in the vet hospital with an abscess in his foot, and it was like, yeah, I can cover that.
Mm.
I wanted to spend it on something else, but yes, I can cover that, and I can nurture him that way. I can nurture Kimberly. If she needs a new coat, she gets a new coat.
And that's about choice still, because you can choose to spend the money nurturing as opposed to choose it for something you felt you need. You can forestall, you can delay that thing that you need, because the giving part of it, because it feels good to give, feels great to give,
Right.
it feels great to give. By the way, I would never use the sentence, I need to get new tires for Kimberly's truck, because Kimberly's never going to have a truck.
Well, our Kimberlys have a bit of differences,
Just like us,
just like us, which is perfect.
Y-
That's how it's supposed to be.
You said that you discovered early on, uh, your relationship with money was forged early, and mine was forged early. But the thing that I think it taught me, or showed me about myself, there we go, it showed me about myself, was that I'm resourceful. And so, if anything in life, I would say from the very beginning, everything's figure outable. I'll figure it out. It's like,
Yep.
and I trusted. We get back to trust.
Totally.
We always say trust at least once in an episode. I
We should
trust
just start
myself.
off with, hi today, everyone. Trust. Okay, hold that.
I'm going to get
Now
a
we'll go.
T-shirt just says trust right here, right in the front. So
exactly.
but I trust myself. Now, that doesn't mean, doesn't mean you have extremely dysfunctional relationship with money, which I do, and have had. So it's been the done great, and then pooh, where'd it all go? Then done great, and then probably divorce has something to do with that. But again, you okay, you get half, and now we're going to start over. Or I invest everything in a thing that it doesn't work out as good as you think it's going to work out. But there's a faith and trust, as I've said in earlier episodes, God doesn't let the birds starve. So I know my baseline, I'm not going to starve. Okay, great. And that again is that freedom to choose, how do I want to spend my time? If I want to spend a year like I have this year investing in a new idea and spend my time doing that, thankfully I've been able to do that. I have the choice to do that. I didn't have to go do something else to be able to keep bread on the table. That makes sense.
Right.
Now I'm thinking of guys, because I read the boards in the nation, and they get a job because they have to get a job. They got laid off. They didn't get to choose. They got fired. Now what the fuck am I going to do? And I've got kids to feed, so I don't want to ignore any of that heartache and trauma that people go through, and yet that's still all money based. We got to pay the rent. We got bills, and that is true heartache. It's just that I'm so entrepreneurial, and have been since I was 12. I'm like, okay, what do I got to sell? What do I just don't buy into the I can't. And so I just go, okay, great. What are you gonna sell? What do you do? Got something?
Well, I think there is that. And going back to trust, and this is a big deal around money stuff for me, is trusting yourself. And I've spoken about this before. To me, has to do with when I'm trusting myself, I know that I can do whatever I need to do when I need to do it.
Right.
And I have had times in my life where I've gone and stocked shelves at a grocery store overnight, and I've driven a delivery truck, and I put myself through school driving a school bus, and um, I have done road work. I've done those things, and the willingness to. I have worked with men, and particularly young men, like between 30 and under, where it's like, oh, I don't want to do that job, and it's like,
I chuckle.
there is a part of me inside that goes, who cares whether you want to do that? And it's and like, if you need to park cars, park cars. And I run into this a lot with people who have graduated with their master's degree, and they want to immediately go into private practice as a therapist. Well, there's no ground. They haven't built a foundational ground by which to bring in clients. And people will say to me, well, how do you get so many clients? Well, it's because I've been doing it for
80,000 hours.
And 80,000 hours. But it's like, my thing is, well, go wait tables for 3 nights a week and make sure that you're not desperate. And then
there's
building.
A phrase comes to mind, which is, you got to pay your dues. Everybody pays dues. Doesn't matter. Across the street's the Montecito Country Club. It's not free just because, oh, you're rich. It's just for rich people. You don't get, you pay your dues, right? You pay your dues through experience of, you don't get to do. I have a startup right now that I'm working on, and that same thing. Well, I want all those top name clients right now, and I want to do blah, blah. And, you kind of go, but I've had top clients in the past. I've had all the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we got to pay. I'm still paying dues, and it was very interesting. This happened yesterday. And I said, okay, this isn't, I want it to happen faster. Great. I don't care what you want, the universe says. And
Mark,
yeah,
I don't care what you want.
Exactly. I've said the voice of the universe. But it got me to be resourceful because I came up with a completely different idea with my partner on how to fund this thing. I said, which actually solved 2 other problems that I've been hearing in the last 2 weeks, 2 other concerns that people have about this idea that are good concerns. And I was like, oh, well, if we could do this and this and this. And I got so excited, only because I had a plan, I had a choice, and I'm able to, okay, that's how we'll do that thing. But the paying the dues is a big part of this. You don't get to have those choices until you've worked hard to get to a place where you can make the choices. That all being said, when you said the under 30-year-old said, I don't want to be doing this job. I don't like this job. There's the stories we tell, the stories we're told, the stories we tell ourselves. And the stories we tell ourselves, we're writing that story. And I think that by reframing that, and in our house, what we do, everything has the potential to be an adventure. Doesn't matter what it is. Cleaning the cat box, going shopping. Everything can be, if you open, as you say, you open a window, you create a space for it. How do I create a space for this shit job to be an adventure? That's a reframe of the story you tell yourself. So now I'm looking at, if I'm a road work, I'm going to try to find the most exotic car today that goes by because I love cars and I'm going to pay attention to the cars that are going by. Or I'm going to spend time today learning about one of my coworkers who probably thinks this is a shit job as well. But if someone paid attention to him and asked him questions about his life, it might bring a little hope into his life. Or
You
I'm
bet.
going to pay attention to the things as I'm stocking the shelves and I'm seeing what people are buying. I wonder what they're doing with this corn. Like I believe you could turn anything into an adventure. And now it's like, oh, you mean I'm over? It's over? Oh, okay. See you tomorrow, guys. Am I
So
too optimistic, dude?
no, I don't know that you. No, you're not. Although when I did road work, I was working so hard and sweating so much, I didn't want to talk to anybody because I was concentrating. But what I did do was make that contemplative and meditative while I was digging, which is another way perhaps to have an adventure. That
Yes.
what you're talking about is fabulous. There's another piece in here, and I don't. It sounds almost too mundane, maybe, but it's like, are people willing to work hard?
Oh, that's grit.
Are we? So one of the folks I work with turned me on yesterday to this musician, Tom Emanuel, who I watched some of his YouTube things. He is maybe the best guitarist ever. He's amazing.
Tom Emanuel.
Yeah.
Got
He
it.
actually has a TED Talk on, calls himself the One Man Band, and he shows how he plays with his thumb. He plays the same thing that would happen on left hand of the piano, and then he adds in the rhythm, and then he adds in bass. I mean, it's amazing. Well, what's apparent is that he has spent hundreds of thousands of hours messing around with his guitar and learning and playing. And it's the same way with, people see some of the stuff I do with horses and they go, how'd you do that? And at this point, I don't even think about it, but it's like I don't know how many thousands of hours I've spent with horses. I have not kept track. But what I do know is for years, I would go out to my little small arena and I would try this and that didn't work. And then I'd try that. No, that didn't work. Then I tried that and that worked a little. Then I tried something and it was like, oh, that works. And then I would try and duplicate that or replicate that. And thankfully I had some horses that were patient with me because they were standing there going, I know how to do this. Let me do it. But it was like one of the pieces, and part of what I love about you is how honest you are. I love a whole lot of things about you. One of them is your honesty. And what you're not talking about is the incredible amount and hours of hard work that you have put in to get where you're at so that you could do what you did yesterday, which is go where you had enough resources and enough perspective to go, oh, well, let's try and shift this around a little bit, because you could not be doing what you do had you not spent hundreds of thousands of hours at what you do. And there's a thing in writing called time in a saddle. And people literally go, well, how do I learn to ride? And it's like, well, do lessons. Ride. I mean, I have probably, I've probably taken, I don't know, 500 to 700 lessons in my life. And hang on, got a little noise in the background there. I've taken, I don't know, 500 to 700 lessons in my life, maybe 1,000. I haven't kept track of those either. But I've also spent thousands of hours in the saddle, thousands.
Mm.
And and it's like, are you willing to spend time in a saddle? Are you willing to?
So stay with the willing piece. There is,
Exactly.
I wonder if our relationship to money is a generational issue, much like our grandparents lived through the Great Depression, and they had a very specific relationship to money. Our parents, because they lived with those parents, had a relationship to money that is what generation removed. Which then we grew up in the 50s, which was everything was kind of going good post-war. There was money, there was building, there was growth, there was expansion. But if we look now at millennials and the Z generation, Zoomers, as I call them, there is.
I asked someone the other day what this generation is. So.
They'll say Gen Z, but I'm like, oh no, I'm going to call them Zoomer. We're Boomers, they're Zoomers, and we're 4 generations apart. And there is they did a thing with the millennials. They did a survey. They said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And more than 50% said famous.
Really?
Yeah, more than 50%. We did a show on this back in the day, and so the next question was, famous for what? I said, didn't understand the question. No, I want to be famous. For what? I really don't know what you mean, Grandpa. Wow. They want to be in, they see influencers, they see the dynamic of how you can make money now is so incredibly different. It's just, I don't, what's the work now? Oh, I can dance and get 1 million viewers on TikTok, and then I can wear some brand sweater and I get paid by the brand, and that's work, isn't it? I'm making money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you are. So I think there is a sense of entitlement. I hear this from employers a lot, that they feel entitled. Like, why? What do you mean I have to? No. You're the boss and you're going to pay me. So I think this there may be a generational disconnect here in the way you and I think about it, and it would be interesting over maybe the next couple weeks for us to go out of our way to talk to some Zoomers and some millennials and kind of ask them these same questions, because there may just be a fundamental generational realignment or just different approach. Could be. Could be.
Well, and you know what might be interesting, Mark, is to ask men in the nation, what's money mean to them?
We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. We're going to, we'll start a conversation. And I love, just a shout out to the guys that are listening, and the girls that are listening, but the people that are listening to this, we appreciate your comments so much. It means so much to us to know you're reading, and you're listening, and it's making a difference, and it's getting you to rethink about things. So we will talk about money. I'm going to shift a little bit, because as we were talking, I'm thinking that is, gosh, as little as 4 years ago, there was a point where I was completely broke. 100%. And I was in just psychologically a very, very dire strait. We were paying like $5,800 a month for an office that just the two of us sat in when we could just as easily be sitting home. So it might have been longer. It might have been 6 or 7 years ago. and we were just burning cash with our software company. And it was like, oh, dude, what are you going to do now? And I had to get out. I was so rattled. I don't really get anxiety, but I think I had maybe an anxiety attack.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know. I also have AFib, so it could have been that. But I had to get out, and I probably did a 2 mile walk before I calmed down, and came up with a plan. I went to a dear friend and borrowed some money, and just got super humble. And I said, borrowed, and the goodwill is there. So, hey,
Mhm.
thanks for letting me know. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad I could help you. To your point, being able to use the money to
Right.
help in another way, but that clearly wasn't how I thought about it at the time. So just though it looks like we're doing great, we all have those periods. But it then got to be resourceful and trust in a relationship with a friend, and trust that you could do that. Which makes me think that last weekend, a friend of mine, I called for his birthday and checked in on him. And I'm so glad I did, because he was at the lowest point, and I've known him for 40 years. He says, I'm
Mhm.
stuck in a hotel. I have no money. I've been here for 2 weeks. I got his truck. He's a truck driver. His truck driver got totaled 2 weeks earlier.
Oh my God.
He's stuck wherever that was. The workers' comp was paying the truck driving company said, let him go. And he's like, dude, and I called to wish him happy birthday, and he laid this on me. And I said, I'm gonna send you money before this phone call is over. It'll be in your bank. And and he's like, he refused. Please do not. And I said, okay, then I'm gonna get you a job by the end of today. This is last Saturday. I'll get you a job. I had him a job an hour later.
Really?
I had
Right
two
on.
jobs. Two jobs. I called two old friends and I said, hey, got to help our buddy. And I said, thank you. And both of them said, no thanks needed. He would do the same for us were we in that position. But
Perfect.
but the reason I'm saying this is because I had to tell him, you have to let people help you sometimes in life. You have to let your
Absolutely.
pride, people love you, they want to help you, they can help you. Just say thank you. It's not about owing. It's not about any. That's a story you're telling yourself. Say thank you. Someone reaches, get you a hand, lifts you up. And I talked to him yesterday. I've been checking on him every couple of days. He sent me a picture of him he didn't have a car. He's been driving a truck, living in a truck for 3 years. Didn't need a house, didn't need
Wow.
anything, lived in a truck. And here he is. He says, Mark, everything I own's in a suitcase. He's a 57-year-old guy. And 3 days later, showed me a picture of him at CarMax in a new car. Because I said, you got to get a signing bonus, and you got to get them to get you a car so you can get
Mhm.
around and do what you need to do and get you the money to get you an apartment. And he's got a beach apartment and he's got a car, and he sounded better. But when you didn't have any money, you don't have any choice, and you're stuck in a
Friggin'
sleazy
hotel.
apartment right
Right.
in a hotel.
So there's a piece there where you were nurturing.
I
That's what
was
you,
nurtured by me doing that.
well, you were nurtured, but you were nurturing.
I was nurturing 100%. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, 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 yeah.
and it's like, and this is another piece. This, wow, like bells and whistles are going on. One of the things that I believe that we do as men, that many times we get criticized for, is that one of the ways we show our love is through money, is through
Mm.
providing. And that can come across in many, many different ways. They can come across in very kind ways. In fact, last week, and I mean, this has affected what we did last week. We were teaching an intensive. One of our teachers, her mother had a major heart attack. And I was sharing a little bit about this with you before we got on. And one of the issues, like within minutes, our team pulled together and helped our coworker, our partner, get home, which was in Asheville from Denver. And it was like, and she's going, but I don't have the money. I can't. And it's like, no, you're covered. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. No, you are covered. We will take care of you. We will get you to the airport. We don't care how much it costs. You're covered. But one of the things that many, many men do in relationships is show their love through money. So show their love through providing. And there's an upside to that and there's a downside to that, because it's, in many ways, it's a way that we give. In other ways, it's clearly not enough. So we need to come in other ways also. But be aware that if that's what you're doing, and I'm talking to the nation now, if that's what you're doing, be aware that that's what you're doing and be aware of how you're doing it. Also be aware if you're holding some covert contract by doing that too, because that's where the downside comes in.
Go deeper on that. The word covert contract got my attention big time.
Well, I believe we've talked about covert contracts before, where it's like, well, if I do this, this, and this, then I get this back.
Right.
Without saying anything, without being honest about it.
There you go.
If I'm providing money, then I get sex. If I'm
quid pro quo.
Money, yeah. Versus, if I'm providing money, I'm doing that from a place of nurturing. I'm not doing that from a place of that I want something back.
Freely given.
Yes. One of the things in our relationship, and I really want to share this because this is a big deal. As a therapist, I get paid on an hourly basis. It's X amount of money per hour that we meet. If we meet 2 hours, I get 2 hours worth of whatever. My partner is a therapist also. However, she does not see as many clients as I see. She does an absolutely amazing job at taking care of our home, at taking care of me, at taking care of our animals, at being complete partnership. Early on in our relationship, we talked about the idea of money, because this is a really big thing in relationships, and particularly between men and women. Any relationship, but I'm talking now about heterosexual relationships because that's what I'm in. And but an hour of me working with a client, regardless of how much I get paid, whether it's $10 or $1,000 for that hour, when Kimberly does an hour of taking care of our home, those hours are equal. Money, it's not that I can get paid $200 for that hour and she gets paid $0 for this hour, financially anyway. This is better than this, because it's not. So take a look at that relationally too. If I spend 6 hours in a particular day doing something that provides and adds toward our relationship, and Kimberly spends 6 hours in a particular day doing something that adds and provides for our relationship, those are equal.
There's this parity you're talking about is at the basis I'm so blessed. I don't argue in my relationship now. I finally figured it out. Four chances, and hopefully doing it right. But I think that
Mark,
you don't.
I just have to tell you that statement. You created a huge opening for a smart ass comment, which I would
And
have
thank
to
you for not taking it.
say. Go for it, buddy.
I'm very cognizant. We are in this house. We're very cognizant that hope I'm gonna get it right this time. God damn it! Uh, but the arguments you have around inequality on contribution are significant. It could be it can be any of the things we just mentioned. You're not carrying your load. You're not doing your all of that. And I guess every single person who's listening has 10 stories to tell about that. And again, that's either the victim story, which we've talked about, or it's the story you tell yourself, and it's not turning things into adventures. When chores are chores, and no one's going to come unless you're rich enough to have someone come and do all the chores. You got to do the damn chores. You got to take out the trash. You got to empty the litter box. You got to mop the floors. That's just what it is.
You gotta wash your clothes. You gotta
That's
change your sheets. Yes.
cook. You got to take out the trash. Just what? Just shut up and do it, right? We
I'm going to use that in my next session.
Well, just shut up and do it. No, there's another little story we tell ourselves that we conjured years ago. There's the daily chores that I just went through a whole list of those things, right? Detach any emotion from those things and you'll win. If you have any emotion attached to them, you lose. Just detach the emotion, shut up, do it, just so you get back to your life, whatever. And if you can turn it into adventure, great. But then there are those things that are clean the garage, clean the basement, organize the closet, the stuff that's gonna, don't want to do that thing. We decided that break those things down into 50-minute chunks, 50. Break them down into 50-minute chunks. How many chunks is it going to take to do that? Oh, it's going to take 3 of those chunks. Okay, cool. And then we decided to call them tangos. Because I'm going to go dance with the garage. I'm going to go dance. Language is important. I'm going to go dance with the basement.
That's true.
Right? I'm going to do a tango in the garage, have fun dancing. Okay. And so I've already set an intention that I don't want to clean a garage, but that's a story I'm telling myself. So flip that thing around. The adventure might be I'm going to find stuff that I forgot I had, or I'm going to feel so good when I look at it, like I finally did the thing. And, but it's this, again, back to the story. So what's the story we have around money that we've been telling ourselves? Bringing it back to money. Exactly. What is that? What is the story? Someone just ask the people listening, what's your story about money? What are you telling yourself about money? I don't care what it is. Honestly, I don't care what it is. I want people to be honest and say, I'm in it for the money. I only did this thing for the money.
What it is, absolutely.
Just be honest.
Absolutely.
And I think because it's such a core part of everything, we went out to the islands a few weeks ago. We went on the last flight. This guy he'd been flying his entire life, and it was his very last flight. He was retiring. He retired. And it was magic for a million different reasons. But one of the things is the Chumash Indians, who've been out there for well over 10,000 years, needed money. They needed money. Why'd they need money? To trade, to get things they wanted from the mainlanders. And they used shells to trade. That the currency was shells. And they found these what are called middens, which are piles of shells, and these little quartz drills that they made from a particularly very hard quartz that is found out on the island. And they would make these little drills so they could drill the hole and then string the shells together and be able to then sell or trade for those. So money's been around forever. Money, gets us the things
Yeah.
that we need, that we don't have. Um, I don't know. That just hit me that this is not unique.
No,
This is a 10,000-year problem.
it's not unique. It's a 10,000, maybe hundred thousands of years problem.
Yes.
And as you were talking, and when you said the piece about be honest about what you're using money for, what it means to you, that's been around that long too.
Wow.
Whether it be a string of shells, or whether it be sheep or goats in the Middle East, or whether it be horses, whether it be cows or cattle, whether it be whatever it is. So I know we're coming close to our time here. So let me throw out both a question and a challenge. Take a look at what money means to you. And not only from the standpoint is, are you doing something just for the money? And if you are, more power to you. Just know that that's what you're doing. But also, how else are you using money? Are you using it to manipulate? Are you using it to get sex? Are you using it to have power over? Are you using it to, do you get yourself addicted to it? You name it. And it's like,
Those are the 5 questions.
yeah. So
Those are the 5 questions that we should be honest about, and there's no shade on the answer. It's just we're just
be straight up.
yeah. Dewey
And
Freeman,
yeah,
you're my best friend, dude.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love these conversations, and I love the chance to talk about things that all week long we probably don't talk about. And I'm glad we have this 1 hour of time, and I want to thank our listener for paying attention to the very end. Thank you.
Thank you very much.